What's the worst scam you fell for when you were young and gullible? Timeshare condo at the Massanutten Resort in VA. Was a 20-something newlywed with a new house and no kids. Wife and I thought we were going to live that double income no kids lifestyle. Plus we had a new joint bank account stuffed with wedding gift checks. As the sales pitch dragged on, I felt sicker and sicker, but kept telling myself that this was ultimately going to be an asset and we would have access to a getaway whenever we wanted. My wife drove home that day while I read the fine print on the mountain of paperwork. I was in a panic by the time I got home. After a few minutes of googling, I discovered that VA has some type of buyer's remorse law that lets you out of a timeshare with no penalty as long as you notify them in the first 5 or 7 days. I did that crap the next day and sent it certified mail with a receipt. To this day, I still have the receipt sitting in my fire safe as a reminder to not jump into things. Oh man, I sat through one of those sales pitches for some crappy free gift and it was a nightmare. We said no in every way possible, and they kept handing us off to person after person until the last one was berating us for not buying. It was almost impossible to get out of the room. I was in college and playing COD Black Ops late at night shortly after it came out. In the middle of a round, my phone rang and it was a robot from Visa saying my debit card had been compromised and I should enter my 16-digit card information. Well, I wanted to continue on with my round as fast as possible, so I typed in the number. Then when the robot asked me for the expiration date is when I realized my mistake and told my friends I had to go. Called and cancelled the card right away. Well, on the plus side, the card number generally means nothing, but yet better to do that. I get texts from O2 all the time saying to verify my details, except they don't come on the O2 numbers or they'll link to non-O2 sites. Always check hover over links and make sure the numbers used are genuine. Back when I was in my early 20s, I started scouring eBay for whatever semi-precious stones and gems that I could find. While I managed to snag a few great deals, I wound up getting just a bit too enthusiastic about certain rare items, like a raw, uncut piece of ice quartz. Now, I'd heard of rose quartz and smoky quartz and even rutilated quartz, but ice quartz was brand new to me. The listings included pictures seemed to suggest that it was a perfectly clear variety of the mineral, but that occlusions in the stone made it look a bit like an ice cube. The price was fairly steep, but since it was such a seemingly unique item, I was happy to pay. I realized how stupid I had been when the rock finally arrived. As it turned out, I'd paid quite a bit of money for a plum-sized chunk of broken glass. TLDR. Fire and ice quartz is a thing, but ice quartz is not. Had just taken a dump on a public toilet, came out to wash my fingers, but had nowhere to place my Game Boy. Some man offers to hold it for me while I wash my hands and next thing you know, little idiotic 6-year-old me no longer had a Game Boy. A man in New York City approached me at a parking meter and asked if I had 4 quarters for $1. I handed him 4 quarters, and then he smiled and walked away slowly. I was too bewildered to even be upset. Honestly, that's pretty funny. I never fell for any, but my dad is an idiot. He carried on conversations through Facebook with a female army LT that was coming home from Iraq in a few months. She had discovered a trove of gold in one of Saddam's palaces and needed a place to hide it from her commander for a few months, and she thought my dad's farm would be perfect. My brother and I found out about 4 months into the whole thing and laughed our asses off. You have won a brand new iPhone. Enter your details to collect your prize. 12 years old me was ecstatic. My dad, who got a surprise £150 extra on the phone bill, was less so. Ouch. I got one of the keys that car dealerships send in the mail with the "if it fits, you win a free car" postcards. Drove 20 minutes out to the dealership. They wanted my email and phone number and asked if I would wait in the lobby for a salesperson to help me. The sales rep straight up told me that it was just a promotion. The key wasn't actually for a vehicle despite looking like one. So I wasted almost 2 hours of my life between the driving and time at the dealership. Then of course I had to go through with unsubscribing from their ads and texts. Got scammed by a taxi driver in Rome. The fare was €25 and I got the money ready and separate prior to the journey. When I got to my destination I gave him the money but he swapped one of the notes and said I only gave him €15. I was getting my bags and didn't think anything of it, just apologized and gave him another €10. Didn't realize till he drove off. I know it's a small amount of money but I still kick myself to this day. I matched with a girl on Tinder when I was 18. We talked for a bit and she gave me her number. I was excited at the time, lol. She never could meet up but one day asked if I would be a +1 to a luncheon for her work. I for some reason saw no issue with this and agreed to go. I go to the address and it's some hall that can be rented out and there is a lot of people there. She says she's inside and will meet me in a few minutes but that I should mingle for a bit. So I'm talking to a guy and a girl and strangely enough they are doing the same thing that I am doing. I feel a little uneasy going into the building but I didn't have much of a choice besides just bailing. Come to find out, I'm attending a seminar for working at a multi-level marketing company, and they were very aggressive about me wanting to leave. I never met whoever I was talking to on Tinder either, lol. I was going to rent a house with a guy I knew through a friend. I was a sophomore in college and he was a few years older than me, already in the workforce. We agreed that we would go 50/50 on the utilities but he suggested that I put them all in my name so I could build a credit score. I thought it was a great idea. Turns out he was deadbeat and wouldn't be able to get them in his name. I found this out after he routinely stiffed me on his share of the utilities. Probably lost $1K on his great idea before we both moved out. When I was a kid in the mid-80s, a guy in a van told me he lost his dog and asked if I would help him look for it. I was like, sure thing, mister. Luckily my mom came out of the house before I got in the van. I almost got Johnny goshed. Back in my teenage days I didn't really get much attention from girls so I started using Tinder. Got a match from a girl that looked pretty attractive and she messaged me first so I was pretty excited. We started talking and the conversation escalates into us planning to hook up. She sent me a couple of nudes and teasing videos and insisted I did the same. Once I finally came around to it, I sent it on Snapchat. She immediately screenshot it and threatened to start sending it to people on my Instagram unless I paid her or sent her a video of me having sex with someone. I did neither and she started sending it to people. Eventually I blocked her and the accounts of the people she sent it to that I didn't know. While with the people I didn't block I called and explained the situation and they just kinda laughed it off and told me to be careful on Tinder. In 2002 I was 18 in my senior year of high school. We were pretty poor and I had basically zero chance of affording college. I had great grades and scored a 31 on the ACT so should have gotten scholarships but fricked up all of the applications, missed deadlines and whatnot. Out of the blue one day I got a call about a grant I qualified for to help pay for college. All they needed was my bank account and routing number and they direct deposit the funds. Bro, lucky me. I was so blinded by my financial need and desire to go to engineering school that I gave it out without giving it a second thought. I went to share the news with my parents and was told it was a scam. I didn't want to believe them but under some kind of threat from my dad I called back and told them to delete my bank account information. The dude was incredulous. I still remember the tone of his voice when he yelled back at me, "You don't want this grant." Anyway, I contacted the bank and they had already cleaned out my account. All $61 I had to my name. We closed the account and got me a new account number and that was that. Lesson learned, I guess. Luckily you only had $61. Santa Claus. My parents asked me to write what I want for Christmas on a piece of paper and put it inside the sock. I wrote I wanted a bike. Christmas passed, no gifts. Parents told me Santa must have been stuck in an aerial traffic jam somewhere and I believed it. Sea monkeys look nothing like the comic books promised me they'd look. I'd seen the ads and the comics for years and dreamed about having my own underwater kingdom of little buddies who'd swim up to the side of the bowl and smile at me every day. But back in those days in Australia we just didn't get any of the cool stuff that was advertised in US comic books. Until one day, quite by accident, I found one packet of sea monkeys waiting for me in the toy section of the local supermarket. Just the one. I was so excited I nearly peed my pants on the spot, and after racing home, commanding my dad to locate an empty fish tank, setting everything up and then waiting for days and days for the sea monkeys to hatch. They turn out to be shrimp. About to graduate from high school and got an interview for a potential summer job. Showed up to find a group of 10-15 other high schoolers and we all sat through their hour-long presentation before they wanted to interview us. It was Vector, trying to rope kids into selling Cutco knives. Thankfully it sounded sketchy to me. 18-year-old female going into strangers' houses and told them I wasn't interested and walked away. But not before they tried. You were really engaged during the presentation. We think you'd be great on the team. I guess because I didn't fall asleep or immediately walk out. So glad I dodged that bullet. Some dude on Roblox wanted me to join his world. I went ahead and did it, and it asked for me to log in to verify that it was me. It said server shutting down in 60 seconds and counting down, so I rushed to do it without even thinking twice. Luckily my mom contacted the Roblox support team and after days of trying to get them to do something, I got the account back. Quite a clever scam for using on 8-year-olds like me at the time. Freaking piece of crap. This happens. They use the accounts as bots all the time and also for other uses. Some people just want 8-year-olds' Roblox accounts. I was desperate for a job with no callbacks. Finally get a hit. Sales job. I hate sales but a paycheck is a paycheck. Show up for my interview and it's multiple people getting pitched. 100% commission MLM crap. They were actually encouraging us to hit up family and friends. There was some poor guy there who I can only describe as Gil from The Simpsons, scribbling notes like a madman. The scammers said if anyone wasn't comfortable with this, they could leave. I looked around at the few people there and booked it. I felt so stupid for falling for that. The latest variant is that you're told about the great and wonderful career that is just waiting for you. But there's a training course so that you can be legally certified. And the training course is $120. And if I could cough up $120 on command I wouldn't have come here. Department store credit cards. Get that dope discount and then never receive a statement or card until it's in collections with fees. I refuse to shop at Macy's because of this. I actually went back and forth in emails with a Nigerian prince scammer, but it was more of a Nigerian village girl claiming she needed money to escape a POW camp scammer. Crap was elaborate. I'm glad I wasn't old enough to actually have access to any money, cause she could spin a story. Columbia House CDs. You could buy 12 CDs for 1 penny, then you agreed to purchase a certain number of CDs in the future for full price. I'm not sure what I thought, that they'd call the cops or ruin my credit forever, or what, but I bought all my agreed upon CDs at full price. I read years later that I could have just not bought a single thing because they can't enforce contracts made by minors. I was about 6 and visiting my uncle's house. Suddenly I see a small stool with a drawer in the seat, so I ask him what it was. He says that's really cool and I should put my hand on the seat. It was a small wood burning stove and I burned my whole hand. Your uncle is a terrible person. Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. My 7-year-old brain was sure that they would only pick you to win if you subscribed to some of the magazines. So I filled out the form and mailed it in, positive that my parents would be very pleased when the giant check and balloons arrived. Instead I got yelled at when the first magazines started arriving, and spent a year getting 12 different mystery and sci-fi magazines delivered to me while I worked off the subscription costs doing extra chores every weekend. Ed McMahon freaking conned me. Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. Herbalife. My parents weren't familiar with MLMs, so they couldn't have warned me. Lost $1K plus savings while barely 18, before realizing it's a scam. I started using their products to lose weight and was asked if I'd like to be a retailer too. It was when he explained the business to me by saying it's not a pyramid scheme and proceeded to draw circles that eventually made a pyramid of circles with him at the top. Then I decided to leave. A friend wanting to help me build a PC because you get so much more bang for your buck. Me having been friends with him for a decade trusted he knew what he was doing and wanted to help. Lots of red flags along the way, like telling me he ordered the things before I even asked him to do it, or asking me for the money before I got the PC. But I had no reason not to trust him. Then several weeks later I finally got my bang for my buck PC, which was mainly outdated laptop parts. It was terrible. I was promised Skyrim on Ultra and I got Skyrim on lowest possible setting and 1280 x 1080 to get 40 FPS. He still technically owes me money as he didn't spend the full amount, but he refused to give it to me, even when I was living off $20 a month for a while. So I just stopped talking to him. That is not on you. You trusted a friend. He is the one that acted like a piece of crap. In 2000, got an invitation in the mail to attend a screening of a TV pilot and offer my opinion. It was held in a hotel conference room and there were probably 200 people there. When the show started, it was obvious it was filmed in the 1980s. There were actors who hadn't been in the spotlight in years, jokes about Ronald Reagan, etc. But the MC kept talking it up like it was a brand new show. There also were a few commercial breaks. Afterward, everyone got a survey to fill out that had 2 questions about the show and 50 questions about the commercials. At least it didn't cost me any money. In the food store I noticed I was being followed by a woman, in her 30s-ish. She eventually comes up to me, says she lost her wallet and asks for like $5 for the bus home. I'm hesitant, because I got a lot of bad vibes from her, but she is really pushy and since she asked for a very low sum I finally give in. Thought that would be the end of it, but she doesn't leave me alone. In the corner of my eye I see her following me around the store, always looking at me. I pay for my stuff and starts walking to my car. I was 16 at the time but looked young for my age. And there she is again, asking if it's my car and if I could give her a ride. At this point I'm legit scared and says no and locks my car doors after getting in. I see her approaching another stranger asking for $5 for the bus. Well, in the end I wasn't scammed on a lot of money, but that lady was sure as heck up to no good. I wonder what her plan was. Probably pull something sharp and take more money. Outpatient surgery due to a narrowed esophagus with surprise out of network anesthesia. Everything in network when I went in, came out feeling like I'd done the adult thing to get it checked out, and a couple months later I get a bill for $2 $3K from the attending anesthetist that my insurance would help me with. Oh number. I once bought this RuneScape tool that could turn 1 GP into any amount you wished. It actually did that visually. It would turn 1 coin into a 100 million for example. But it kept the 1 coin value till it was useless of course. The National Honors Society. If your grades were good enough, you got your name in a special yearbook. Your photo too, if you paid more for it. So far, the only good thing that came from joining the National Honors Society was that I used to occasionally find the book with my photo in different thrift stores. Hello, dorky 7th grade photo that I used because my 9th grade photo was even worse. That sounds more like Who's Who. 5 years old, my mother said that she was checking my candy for poison. It's been 32 years. Mom, you still owe me all those peanut butter cups. We have a tradition on birthdays, an awful tradition BTW, letting the birthday person blow the candles and take a bite of the cake. I was a kid back then and my grandma told me that she didn't know how to take a bite of the cake, so she said I should show her how, and I did. Then someone else proceeded to shove my face on the cake. Today I still don't know how could I fall for that. My friend offered to trade his drawing of Spider-Man for my Nintendo DS. I accepted the offer and when I got home, my mum found out about it and got angry at me. She insisted that I should get it back from my friend and so I did just that. When I asked for my DS back, my friend said that he gave it to his cousin who lives in Brazil and I fully believed him. I never got my DS back. That's when your mum should have stepped in. We need our parents to fix those dumb problems we cause for ourselves. After a horrific ride-sharing situation, I arrived at a station and had to take a cab to buy. Then, So's house because it was 2 AM. A cab was waiting at the station. I hopped in and after we started the ride asked what the fare was. I had cash but not the $60 I was quoted. I realized at this point the driver had a lady, assuming girlfriend, in the passenger seat navigating and there was no mileage device or anything cab-like. Went ahead and asked to detour to a gas station because it was 2 AM and I just needed to get where I was going. Paid the $60 and figured I paid some stupid tax. A few months later took the same route but called an actual cab. $27 fare that time. This happened to me too. Got in a car that was in line in front of the airport. Realized there was no meter after we took off. $80 for what's usually a $20 ride. I had a dog and heavy suitcase with me and was just glad not to murdered. TBH. When the US state quarters first came out, you could buy the cardboard map with spots in each state to add quarters as they were issued. The map and set of first 4 coins were $19.99. Right at the end, I got double talked out of $118 more by agreeing to also purchase the other 46 quarters as they were minted. Never saw another shipment, and after further tracking from my credit card statement, the company went out of business. 2. That's why my grandfather gave me a half-finished coin map for my birthday when I was 8. The strip club scam. You go into a seedy looking strip club, sit down and a waitress comes up and asks to join you. You then get billed for her drink at insanely inflated prices, and if you don't have the money they get a heavy to march you to the cash point. I didn't want to speculate about what would have happened if I hadn't had the money available to withdraw. I was old enough to know better but extremely gullible. I learned some life lessons that day. Yeah, then there's the buy me a drink and we can talk scan after you've gotten a lap dance. The drink is $20. I was in my early 20s and a musician. Still am. For context, and a fellow musician and friend introduced me to a marketing guy who he was working with, who I'll call Tim. The guy explained this whole package that he was putting together to promote us as artists on different platforms, separately, and because I trusted my friend, I paid Tim nearly $8,000 for this. I spent days in his office, discussing strategy, writing songs. It turned out that Tim had scammed the whole thing, rented an office and hired a fake secretary, and just vanished with the money. He had no connections or experience in marketing or brand creation, online or otherwise. Outside a dead show at the Spectrum in Philly in 1994, I bought what I thought was a marble-sized ball of hash from some dude for $20. When I got back to my car to fire it up my friends, I discovered it was really just a wadded up piece of a Tootsie Roll. I was a dumb kid. I've been scammed when trying to buy a queue of weed off the street in London and also seen mates scammed for pills in much the same way. But then again, I've also met decent dealers randomly too that way. You win some, you lose some. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.